All right. Well, maybe just start with some introductions as people are still kind of falling in.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure. All right. Well, hi everyone. I am Chrissy. Let's see. This is actually for myself and Julia, our first webinar. So please bear with us with any maybe tech issues or whatever it may be. We're very excited to have everyone here. Let's see. So I've been, at DBT of South Jersey for since 2020 and running skills group. So I'm excited to kind of take on this kind of different experience with this webinar, and we're looking forward again to having everybody.
I'm Julia. I am an intern at DBT of South Jersey. I've been working here since May of this year. So yeah, I'm excited to do this. And again, it's my first time, so I'm excited to see how this folds out for us tonight.
Yeah. Right. Well, I am going to share my screen. That way we will just have, a PowerPoint that you can, follow along with. And Julia, are you looking at the right thing?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, right.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay. So welcome tonight. We'll be talking about kind of using some DBT skills to get through, different parts of the holiday season. So, touch on, I think also post the holidays, winter can just be really challenging. So we'll have some different skills that we will touch on that, you'll be able to use. And something else you were going to add?
I think that's about it. I think that we have some announcements for tonight, so we'll go through that and then get started with the skills.
Yes. So some announcements just in general about your kind of other free webinars that you can join. We have our family support group that is happening on 12/12, which is, going to be at 7:15. This is, kind of for anyone in the community. Maybe, you're a client here and have a family member or a friend you want to kind of go to these sessions. They will be covering the biosocial theory as well as kind of our 6 different levels of validation. And then kind of similar to what we're doing tonight, that we have one just kind of once a month that's on a different topic. The next one will be going from values to actions and how to create a life worth living and accumulating positives. That will be with Sarah and Jelani, and that will be on January 12th from 5 to 6 p.m. And, again, can kind of sign up the same way that you did for this one. Then, kind of once a month, we always have mindful yoga with Alex. And this, you're able to kind of go in person to our Voorhees office to be there, or, you could sign on virtually. And, there's kind of with the new year, maybe some kind of tweaks with some of our dates. So, I would say just keep yourself involved with our website, social media accounts to kind of, keep getting those updates. And just other general announcement for this evening, this is being recorded. And so if by the end of the week, potentially, end of day Friday, you should be able to, kind of have this recording sent to you, or, again, can be found on our YouTube channel once that is placed up there.
Okay, so the holiday season is typically portrayed on maybe social media, on TV, and also in music as this really cheerful, bright, joyous time of year where there's just so much warmth and love and connection. And so for some people, that might be the case. People might actually feel really happy during this time of year. But this glamorization of the holiday season can create a lot of expectations and a lot of pressure for what the holidays are supposed to look like. And so within some of this holiday bliss, there can be a lot of people who experience really difficult times, and reality is just very different from the expectations that are set within our society. And again, it can just be really difficult. So on this slide, we have a list of maybe some common experiences during the holiday season. So as I go through this list, if there's anything that really resonates with you, anything that stands out, and maybe anything that's not on this list that you might experience that you would want to add, feel free to write in the chat. I want to hear from you all and what this holiday season might look like for you. So being around family members can be really difficult. Being around the people that are closest to us, maybe the people that we grew up with, can create a lot of difficulty, and perhaps there's some friction between family members. Maybe there's some invalidation from family members as well. Unwanted and intruding questions can definitely be very common, like, why aren't you married yet? Or when are you going to meet someone? Why are you still single? I really wish that I had grandchildren. And there's just a lot of intruding things that family members can say, and it can be really uncomfortable and spark a lot of uncomfortable emotions for us. Maybe there's different political conversations within families. Like sometimes we really dread those differing sides within politics, and those conversations can really come to a head during the holiday season. So that one might be one that stands out for you. Social anxiety can come up a lot as well. There's a lot more social interaction that typically happens around this time of year, whether it's being with family, friends, maybe just being out in public in those crowded spaces can bring up a lot of anxiety, maybe some even feelings of panic that's there as well. And then kind of along with this, there can be a lot of overstimulation, whether that's during the holidays, being with family, with friends, maybe even at work. Sometimes this time of year can be really busy. And so feeling overstimulated can make us a lot more emotionally vulnerable to some of those more uncomfortable emotions. There can also be some sadness and loneliness, which we'll get into a little bit more in a bit. And perhaps even some grief and loss. Sometimes the holidays really highlight the things or the people who aren't there in our lives or who aren't present. And so if you have any experiences with grief and loss, this can be a really difficult time of year. And along with just noticing the things that we don't have, like I was saying in the start, the media can portray a lot of expectations. And sometimes, like, I know for myself, I'll be scrolling through social media and be like, oh, I want that for Christmas, or wait, I don't have that. And it can lead to a lot of comparison and recognizing the things that we might be lacking in our lives, which can then lead to a lot of different emotions like sadness, loneliness, jealousy, envy, maybe some anger, resentment toward the things that we don't have, or even the people who aren't there with us. There can also be some judgment, and this judgment can come from ourselves. It can come from other people. It can come from society in general. So recognizing where judgment might come up in your life and how that might play a role for you during the holiday season. There can also be a lot of financial pressure and a lot of financial difficulties during this time of year. There's a lot of expectations around gift giving and showing up for other people through gifts and presenting the things that we have. And so when finances are limited, it can create a lot of pressure during this time to buy certain things or do certain things. And then there can also be a lot of travel stress. Like, I know that the airlines have had a lot of difficulties recently. And so if you are planning on traveling, there might be a worry about getting your flight canceled or having your flight delayed or not being able to get somewhere that you need to get. Maybe there's a lot of increased traffic. And so recognizing some travel stress that can exist during this time as well could be really important. And then there can also be some feelings of anger and some actions of isolation during this time. Sometimes when there's a lot of holiday activities going on, we might want to pull away from those things and isolate. And it can be really difficult to manage those experiences and those feelings during this time. And then the last thing I have on this list is high emotional reactivity. And I put this there because I think during this holiday season, we can be a lot more vulnerable to some emotions. And when we experience those emotions, they can come in at a much faster rate and like a much more intense rate. And so there can be a lot of high emotional reactivity. which is pretty much the point of why we're doing this skills session today. So we can really focus in on, okay, this might be a really difficult time of year. So how can we use some skills to kind of effectively manage this emotional reactivity that, or an emotional intensity that might be existing during this time? So with that, I will give it back over to Chrissy and we can start with our first skill for today.
Yes. So there is a skill that is, kind of about improving the moment. And this one, can really be used a lot when we, potentially have, maybe it's not like a small only one single moment that it's happening. This can be really effective when it's something that feels like maybe it keeps coming up for us a lot, or even that there is kind of like some ongoing suffering around this topic that this skill will be really helpful for. And this skill is kind of packed in with a bunch of skills in one. First up is going to be imagery. This one I think can be very, kind of either that people really love, or maybe it's something, that they have some difficulty with, or, I think what maybe potentially if someone is very like visual imagery can be very great. Kind of just a few different examples of, how we could use this is potentially really imagining that, that either our negative emotions are, kind of flowing out of us. And, and that could be, in a few different ways where, either kind of that it's like flowing out of our hands, or, another one could really be about, kind of using some imagery for things that are around you, potentially, like to do maybe having some Christmas lights and, almost imagining maybe they're like kind of coming down and they're a shield around you in, that moment, and kind of maybe, blocking you from some of those, negative feelings, kind of having, a little like shield for yourself. Another one could be almost like, going to a happy place in our minds, maybe something that could be difficult is, the weather, the cold, maybe if you're not a fan of the snow. So, could kind of potentially do a little like vacation in our minds, which we'll loop back to for that V that's coming in for improve. But, really maybe imagining yourself at the beach, or, somewhere warm or sunny, or somewhere that, is a potential safe place for yourself. Or maybe a place you have some connection to. Next up, there is meaning, which is really, when we're trying to either kind of find some type of meaning that either is maybe connected to our past, or, for our future, or really just trying to find, some type of value in that moment and what's happening, in front of us. This could be about, maybe trying to kind of really highlight the things that, you like about the holidays or this time of year. Maybe it's, the decorations, or, kind of cozy blankets, maybe any traditions that either yourself or you and your friends, or, kind of maybe that happen in your family, some traditions that, really do bring you a lot of joy. Tell you for myself, a lot of these items around me were from Five Below, and just kind of got some joy being able to go around, look at all the different stuff, pick out some lights and some stuff for my tree, and really being able to just kind of focus on that one positive for myself. And next up, oh no, I'm sorry, there's other thoughts I'm having about meaning, really trying to find some, connection, whether it's, kind of just connecting with ourselves, or, really trying to feel that connection with the people that are around us, or that we are able to really spend time with. And also really being able to recognize that, there were a lot of people that signed up for this webinar and that are here tonight. And so, maybe really honing in and knowing that this isn't, you aren't alone in this time, and that it is, really difficult for, a lot of people. So, really kind of just noticing that, it can be just, a very common, time to, feel this extra difficulty, and maybe to, need some help with some other skills to, use. also that something that can be really helpful with meaning is potentially trying to, contribute. So maybe that is, kind of doing, like something like donating toys or, kind of whatever would maybe feel like, kind of giving back a little bit, to really just kind of help, maybe knowing that you're, really doing something really good for someone else, because, that alone can bring us, a lot of other positive emotions, just, for knowing that, we're giving someone else positive emotions, can feel really great. So, next up we have prayer. And, I first want to really point out that this doesn't have to be necessarily in a religious way at all. If that is going to work for you, that's obviously really great. But there's a lot of different ways that we can, kind of just incorporate the idea of prayer, where maybe it's just, kind of taking, getting a little bit of relief to give some of those emotions away to, whether it's like God or the universe or the earth or just, kind of a general higher power, or, whatever is within your spirituality or, belief system, to, kind of just potentially give, to not have to hold all of that weight yourself, and to, really be able to kind of just share it, or, maybe put it up a little bit to then be able to kind of, create some more space in, your mind for yourself. And, again, I know a lot of people who really just, kind of do this again with sitting outside and really trying to put things back into the earth, or, just trying to, again, connect with kind of the universe in different ways. This can also just really be helpful in times of specific stress for, maybe like, again, there is a lot of traveling, but, you have a fear of being, kind of going on a plane or sitting on a train, or, for, potentially a lot of the financial stress and worrying about, maybe like what's to come next year, or, kind of, with like jobs and stuff like that, being able to, really just have a minute, again, to just potentially get some of that out, and, for some peace of mind. We also have relaxing actions, which is going to be our R for the improve. And this, can obviously, I think, have a very, very wide range depending on, what's going to feel relaxing or good for you personally. And, this could be kind of some self-soothe activities, which, we'll kind of get into a little bit more in detail during our, next skill. So we'll circle back to that one, but really it's just essentially about kind of doing things that are feeling soothing for, one of our five senses, or, maybe more than one. So, also at this point, we could try to do some deep breathing, or, different types of breathing exercises that, you may be familiar with. This could also be something like taking a hot bath or hot shower, or, just kind of taking some time with yourself, maybe again, in those like cozy blankets, or, nice pajamas that you feel really comfortable in. And I guess something to kind of think about here is potentially the idea of how can you make yourself even just like 1% more relaxed than you are, kind of right there in that moment. And so, it doesn't necessarily need to be, like a 0, 100 of like, oh, wow, I've, never been more relaxed ever in my life. So, just kind of trying to make it a little bit more tolerable in that moment, because we're feeling just, again, just a smidge more relaxed than we had the moment before. Next will be, doing one thing at a time, and, kind of just one thing per moment, and, really trying to put our full attention on it, and really, kind of participate in what we're doing in, that one moment. This could be, again, if there's certain parts of the holidays that you do like, so maybe it's, putting up lights, and really just, being able to kind of enjoy the scenery of it, or the actions of it, maybe the people that you're, doing this with, or just, having fun doing it by yourself. This could also be just, really trying to repeatedly bring our minds back to the present moment that we're in. Maybe, you are, with family, and just trying to, you know, kind of keep yourself in that conversation with that person you're with. Or maybe if you're just sitting and watching, you know, a movie, kind of just bringing your mind back to it time and time again, even if, you know, we do find that our minds wander. And of course, I think to an extent they definitely will. And you know, some other options could be you know, maybe something food related, or, you know, kind of there's a lot of good kind of desserts going on at this time of year. So maybe just trying to really be focused with, you know, just what's in front of you with, you know, kind of that food, and just, you know, kind of one bite at a time, and just really taking some time to notice, you know, the texture, the flavors, you know, is it sweet? Is it salty? You know, kind of just some of those things to really fully sit there with it. And I think that was my main examples for that one. So next up is going to be vacation. And again, this could be some imagery that we're using to go to a separate place in our mind, maybe, you know, remembering a really soothing or, you know, fun vacation or place that you've been. Maybe it's somewhere new, maybe it's somewhere totally made up. You know, this could also be from just turning your phone off for the day, if, you know, that's something possible with, you know, like your job, or, you know, kind of other responsibilities, to just, or maybe it's just an hour to really have just that time for yourself, and to really acknowledge that, hey, this is my little break. This is, you know, my vacation for the moment. You know, this could just even be getting outside, taking a walk. And again, really just having that intention, I think, is important of, you know, again, hey, this is my time for me, and, you know, highlighting it in your mind as like a mini vacation. And, you know, could be just, you know, really trying to, you know, maybe if it's like you're able to like sit by a fireplace or watching a movie, and really just, you know, kind of fully, again, in that zone, which is one, you know, I guess can tie hand in hand with, you know, the one thing at a time, and just, you know, again, really being there in that moment. For encouragement and rethinking the situation, this is going to be, you know, I think really depending on, you know, yourself and what feels encouraging, you know, for you, either maybe to hear, or things that, you know, you find encouraging when you know, say to yourself. You know, maybe it's just like simple as like, hey, you got this. Or, you know, maybe it's, you know, knowing that this will pass, either this moment, or, you know, the holidays in general, or the cold, or, you know, of course, whatever it may be, but knowing that it is temporary, and, you know, things are always changing, and that, you know, it won't be, you know, even this emotion won't be this large at, you know, a later time. So something else that's kind of, you know, a little bit different could be, you know, the idea of giving yourself a high five. You know, there is kind of some research that will go into how it, you know, really does give us good brain chemicals to be able to have that connection with someone, and, you know, to have kind of that like physical contact, and, you know, to just, you know, kind of have that moment of celebration. And so, you know, if this is something maybe you can get, you know, your family and friends into, or, you know, if it's something that maybe just kind of like a self high five for yourself, or also, you know, maybe in the mirror, to, you know, just kind of have that extra encouragement, or just, you know, that little moment of, you know, something that can go along with that, like, you got this kind of thought process. Yeah. So again, this is obviously just kind of some of the ideas that I felt were a little holiday based, but not at all limiting. And, you know, there are so many different things that can go within those categories. So I would also encourage you to, you know, be creative and see if there's something that, you know, kind of fits, you know, for yourself. And that will bring us to our next skill, unless, Julia, there was anything else you wanted to add about imagery that you thought imagery improve that I was missing.
No, I don't think there's anything else that I want to add, but if anyone has any thoughts, any questions, feel free to write in the chat. We will have time at the end for some questions as well, but if anything comes up, yeah, feel free to write it in the chat. So this next skill is cope ahead. And this skill is all about recognizing when we're going to be in difficult situations and planning ahead for it. And so when we use the cope ahead skill, we're really creating a cope ahead plan. And through a cope ahead plan, we can start to imagine ourselves being in the situation and coping effectively with the experience. And so by creating and engaging with our cope ahead plan, it can really help to increase the likelihood that we will respond with skillful behavior that we've been practicing and really imagined ourselves doing. So I'm going to go into the steps of the cope ahead plan that you all can see on the slide. So the first step in using the cope ahead skill to create a cope ahead plan is describing the situation. And it can be really helpful to write it out. And by writing it out, it helps to increase our awareness. It might help us to think of things that might happen in the event or situation that we might not have thought of before. So it really helps us to be a little bit more detailed in describing the situation. So we can use the who, what, where, when to help us describe the situation in this first step. And the who can be anyone that you might be with, or maybe it's by yourself. And so really thinking of okay, what is a situation that I want to plan ahead for? And who's going to be there? Will I just be with myself, or will there be other family members or friends or acquaintances? Maybe it's a work situation around the holidays. Maybe you're out in public and it could be strangers that you want to plan for. So really just tuning into who will be there in the situation that you're planning for. The where is where you're going to be. And this may be at home. It might be at a family member's house. It might be at a friend's house. It might be if you decide to go out. It could be if you were shopping or going out to dinner, any social situations. It could be if you're traveling, where you're going to be in that moment that you're anticipating. So anywhere that you're going to be, you're going to write that for this where part in describing the situation. And then the when is this going to be? We can talk about the day that it's going to be, the time of day that you want to plan for. Maybe there's a certain part of the day that you're anticipating a lot more of a stronger emotional reaction. And so tuning into the specific time that this happens, when it is, can be really helpful. And then we also want to talk about the what. And so within the what, we're really going to start to name and describe some of the emotions that we might be experiencing that we want to plan for. And with these emotions can come physical sensations. So any sensations that we feel in the body, any sensations that we want to anticipate there, as well as any urges that we might have. And so when we feel emotions, they often come with some sort of an action urge. And so working to identify any of those urges can be really helpful, because it's likely if we're experiencing intense emotions, we're going to have intense urges at the same time. And so when we create a cope ahead plan and think about acting effectively and skillfully in that situation, we really want to be tuning into the urges and even behaviors that might be occurring. So that way we can know what skills are needed and how those skills can help us manage some of those urges, behaviors, emotions, and physical sensations. The next step is to describe what skills to use. And here we want to be really specific and write out exactly what you're going to do to help with your emotions and action urges. We want to plan for it all. So with what I was saying before, we want to really work to identify any emotions, physical sensations, urges, and behaviors. So that way we can identify what skills we want to use to cope with some of those things that come up for us. And then sometimes you might create one cope ahead plan. You can also create multiple cope ahead plans for one situation. So really being mindful of what comes up for you. And if you're anticipating something like sadness and anger, you might want to create two different cope ahead plans for that, one for sadness, one for anger. And then you can kind of combine them both together to see how you can best effectively use your skills during that situation. So there are a whole range of skills that we can plan for within this section of the cope ahead plan. There's some that I was thinking of that we can go over today. And before we get to that, another thing that I wanted to mention was in this section, it can also be really helpful to list out any supports that you might want to reach out to, if that would be helpful to you in your situation. And when you list out any supports, you really want to list out like specifically who you would be reaching out to and maybe their contact information. And then also who you're going to reach out to after that if that person doesn't respond or isn't available to you. So really being specific there within your supports. So some examples of skills that we can use during this time would be something like observe and describe, like tuning into our mindfulness skills, as well as self-soothe, which is one of DBT's distress tolerance skills. And Chrissy's going to go into those a little bit for us.
I mean, now, yes. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, this is going to be for 5 different categories, being our 5 different senses. So, there are, obviously kind of vision and sight, and this could be maybe lights or watching a movie. It could be, something, again, not related to the holidays at all. It could be watching, cute puppy videos, or maybe looking at old photos that are going to make you smile. I think smell can be a very good one. Definitely probably one of my favorites. A lot of good options of essential oils, candles, the smell from baking, which will tie in with taste. And what are some other ones that I use? I think, with just in general, with the smells, there are, personally my favorite for the winter is kind of eucalyptus and peppermint for, I get very sick a lot of the times when it's cold out. And so, just kind of a lot of different things that are, helpful there, where, for taste, it can be maybe some soothing tea, or, it could be, again, like kind of your favorite coffee, or kind of just maybe, I don't know if people are a fan of eggnog, which is one recently I've learned that I have not had ever. That's a different thing. And again, maybe some of those baked goods, or maybe just like a comfort meal that kind of just your favorite snack. This could also be for touch, more so about again, like could be blankets or clothes. It could also be, like physical touch with another person, or, for ourselves, kind of even just like taking a moment to give yourself a hug. Then there is hearing, and, this could be either a guided meditation. This could be, talking to a friend on the phone, or just, kind of having a conversation with someone. This could also be, a playlist, or, just kind of your favorite song. Did I miss any of the 5 senses? Or was that all 5?
Did you just see?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that was it, hopefully.
Yes. Okay. I don't know why I feel like I'm always missing one of those.
I know, I always forget. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. So those are some of the ways that we can tune into our 5 senses and use the mindfulness, observe, and describe skills to act skillfully within some of these situations. There's a whole range of skills, like I was saying before. Some of the other ones that we might use during this time in anticipating some difficulties within the holiday season could be something like Dear Man, an interpersonal effectiveness skill to enhance some of that interpersonal communication. They could be the stop skill and also tip. These skills were done in the previous months for the skills webinar, so we're not going to go over those ones today. I just wanted to put them out there as some ideas of like skills that could be really helpful during this time. So if you're not familiar with those skills, or maybe needing a refresher, you can go back and the recordings are on the YouTube channel. So I would recommend tuning into those if you want a better idea.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you'll be able to find them the same place that this one will be listed once we're done on YouTube.
Yes. So Going into the next step, step number 3, it is imagine the situation. And then within this step, we're really putting ourselves in the situation and imagining that it's actually happening. When we do this, we want to tune into those 5 senses and see what might be there. How can we really imagine the situation and predict what's going to occur? And yeah, we can also use the improve skill that Chrissy went over. The I in improve is imagery. And so using your imagery skill to really imagine the situation and imagine things going well. There's a lot of research that's done about imagery, and they find that the same areas of the brain are activated when we're imagining. So those same areas of the brain are activated as if we were really experiencing the event. And so if we can imagine ourselves coping effectively with the situation and imagining what it would be like to do that skill and going step by step through each skill, we might increase the likelihood of acting effectively in the situation in the future. And so not only are we planning for the event, we're imagining it happening, imagining ourselves using the skill, and really coping effectively in all ways. The next step of this skill is rehearse in your mind, coping effectively. And this is just like what it says. We're going to rehearse so we can really imagine what we're going to say, what we're going to do, and practice as if it's actually happening. And we can, when we rehearse, we can also imagine any new scenarios that might come up. Any ways that we might behave and imagine coping effectively in that way. It can also help us to imagine the worst case scenario. So if there's any fear or anxiety that's coming up for you, imagining that worst case scenario can be really helpful within a cope ahead plan, because it can help us to actually come up with a skill and how we're going to cope effectively with that worst case scenario. And then the last step of this skill is to practice relaxation after rehearsing. So we're doing a cope ahead plan for a reason. It's likely that whatever we're coping ahead for is going to bring up a lot of intense emotions or maybe some stress. And so when that happens, the body can become very activated and tense, or whatever that stress or emotion might feel like for you in your body. And so practicing relaxation is really important here, because we want to calm down the nervous system, be like, okay, I am okay in this moment, and I've got this, I can do this, and I'm practicing, I'm showing up for myself, and I'm doing these things. So really instilling a sense of calmness afterwards can increase the likelihood that when the event actually happens, you will then be able to practice relaxation and practice a sense of calmness within your body. And this can be done through things like self-soothe, like taking deep breaths and doing paced breathing, whatever relaxation looks like for you. So that's it for the cope ahead skill. And now I want to go over into an activity for today.
So I'm going to stop sharing this. That way I will be able to show kind of, as I am typing. Let me pull that up. All right, that way I just not restricted by the PowerPoint size.
Perfect. So for this activity, I'm going to give a situation, and then I would like all of you to start to participate in the chat and really get engaged with this activity to help us create a cope ahead plan. So that way we can really practice what doing a cope ahead plan might be like. So again, feel free to write in the chat and tune in with any ideas or examples that you might have. I figured just for the sake of having us all on the same page, we'll just describe and plan for one situation. So this might not be applicable to you, it might be applicable to you, but hopefully it will just give us an idea of how to do a cope ahead plan. So with that being said, we are going to go into the first step of describing the situation. And I figured we can do this moment of recognition of feeling this really big sense of loneliness. And so this can come up a lot for a lot of people during the holidays, that feeling of loneliness. And you might feel
Struggling with the loneliness. Oh my.
It's
Okay, I got it.
there we go. We're good.
It's the pressure of spelling now that everyone can see it. But sorry, continue.
So, like I was saying, loneliness can come up for a lot of people during the holidays. And when we feel lonely, it can come on like a train sometimes. And it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so lonely right now. And you might be with other people, you might be by yourself. It might be on, like, if you celebrate Christmas, it could be suddenly you recognize this moment of loneliness on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. If there's other family around, you see other people in town. But really, we're focusing for the sake of this co-pad plan, we're just going to focus in on this moment of recognition of feeling lonely. And so if we want to describe it a little bit further, we can say, like, maybe during this moment you feel really sad and angry, and you might feel a sense of emptiness within the core of your body, and maybe you feel some heaviness on your chest and in your shoulders, and maybe there's some tension that comes up in your face. And by doing this, by describing some of those physical sensations that come along with the emotions, it can really help to increase our awareness of what we're planning for, but give us a good idea of like what's there. And then if we want to tune into any action urges and behaviors, if we're feeling lonely, it could be to increase our sense of isolation and to just to really like push ourselves away from other people. And maybe you're closing yourself off to other people. You're not answering anyone's messages. You're not engaging in any conversation, but really starting to isolate yourself from other people due to this recognition of loneliness in that moment. So once we describe the situation, we'll go into the next step of the skill. And this is going to be to decide what skills to use. And so does anyone have any ideas of what skills they might use when feeling lonely?
And, I'm just going to add something else about self-soothe is, I think that can be really great when we are, feeling as though that the environment or the people around us aren't kind of giving us that maybe, love or validation or, kind of what we potentially need from them, that, we're using self-soothe then to kind of be able to bring that in for ourselves. So, maybe that would be a good place to start. Does anyone, maybe have any ideas of, kind of something specific for self-soothe? Julie, what's coming to mind for you?
Yeah, something that I think about is just giving myself a hug. Like if I could just sit there and kind of rub my shoulders and be there for myself, maybe tune into the warmth that I feel in my hands, and really just feel like my own touch on my body could be really helpful if I was feeling some loneliness during the holidays.
Yeah. Yes. What else did you say besides give yourself a hug?
I think also, let's see, if I was feeling lonely, I think I would use self-soothe, but really tune into the mindfulness of what's around me in my room and grounding myself into the present moment. And so sometimes, like I was saying earlier, a big thing in the holidays, especially when we're feeling lonely, is noticing the things that we don't have or the things that aren't there. So tuning into our senses to really recognize what is around us, what do we have, what is there, and seeing like, yeah, just seeing all that I have around me could be really helpful for those feelings of loneliness.
And, maybe I know we also highlighted maybe some imagery, either, kind of whatever way would feel best for you. But right now, what should I put for a moment? Maybe let's do the idea of emotions kind of, draining out of us and, really being able to, kind of have that imagery of watching be that loneliness leave, or, kind of doing it the opposite way of, imagining, kind of maybe just some warmth or love being, kind of that we're soaking it into our skin and, imagining being filled up with that.
Something else that I'm thinking about for imagery, but also maybe it would be part of the meaning in the improve skill, would be imagining a lot of other people around me. Like, there's so many people who experience loneliness during the holidays. And so recognizing the common humanity within that perception of loneliness and maybe some feelings of sadness as well. Like, I know it might feel like you're alone, but if we can tune in and like really imagine all the people out there in the world who might be sharing this experience with us within the loneliness, it might start to kind of counteract that feeling of loneliness and be like, hey, I'm not alone. Like, yeah, maybe physically I feel really alone in this moment, but I know that there's other people out there with me.
A very good one. Yeah. And let's see, I know we covered some self-soothe. What about just, kind of even planning, maybe, either like an activity or, it is, that will kind of bring on positive emotions for us. Whether, that could be something, again, like, decorating or traditions, or, could be something not related to the holidays at all.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying really tunes into that urge to isolate during this time, like if you are feeling lonely. So, and then also ties to DBT's skill of opposite action. Like if we're feeling lonely, we can act oppositely to that emotion. And so perhaps that's planning something that's more involved with other people. Maybe that's planning, like you maybe not even being involved with other people, but doing something that's going to bring on, like what Chrissy was saying, some more positive emotions for us. And it can be holiday based, like Chrissy was saying, or something totally different. Like if holidays just aren't for you, doing something opposite to the holidays could be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe again, then that maybe that could, involve a vacation in our your mind to, again, maybe somewhere warm or somewhere that's, maybe somewhere even, kind of not real or maybe just like kind of fantasy based. I always do like to think that, kind of that the Harry Potter movies are essentially like Christmas movies. I know people kind of feel that way. So, maybe in your mind, you're going to Hogwarts for the day or, something just kind of totally up to you that would, kind of just really bring on, again, it's just trying to achieve those positive emotions.
Yes, I love that example.
Yeah, well, I think, we have a very solid list of skills here to either be able to pick from or, to kind of try to incorporate all of them. Maybe it's, again, for, a day or, maybe for even just kind of picking one or two for, like maybe a co-ed plan that's only, that you need for like an hour or, something kind of in a longer base or, kind of maybe something that's a shorter event.
Yes. So then after deciding what skills to use, we would go on to the next step. And this is imagining the situation. So when we do this, we want to really tune back into that situation that we were describing in the first step and walk ourselves through it. And as we walk ourselves through the situation, we can start to apply some of those skills that we were just talking about. And so say for you, you wake up one day and maybe it is Christmas Eve and you're all of a sudden feel like, oh my goodness, I feel so lonely today. I don't have any plans. I have no family to be with, or maybe you do have family to be with and you don't want to be with that family. And so just really feeling very by yourself. And as you start to wake up, like imagine yourself waking up that day, you can tune into the skill and let's see some of the skills that we use. Maybe this is a moment that we can tune into what's around us and see like what is around the room and walk yourself through doing that and actually practicing the skills. So we're not just saying like, okay, I would, in that moment, I would look around the room. Like we're actually going to be practicing doing that. This could also be giving yourself a hug when you start to feel that loneliness. And again, we're actually practicing doing that and imagining ourselves doing it in the future as well. So seeing if you can really picture yourself, tune into that imagery skill and imagine yourself in the scenario, giving yourself a hug, looking around the room, using any other skills that we just talked about.
Yes. And, I think something that kind of goes into, that imagining it as well as rehearsing it is, we want to imagine it in a way where it actually really is helpful and, it's effective. And, we feel like those skills had really, kind of brought us to where we needed them to be, where we needed us to be.
Yeah. And then the next step is to rehearse. And so sometimes I like to think about this, like if I was in school and I had a presentation coming up, even though I might not want to, I would need to practice doing that. And it's likely the first time I practice, it comes out a little rough, like it's not exactly how I would be saying it in front of the class. And so the point here is we want to really practice so that we embody those skills, we embody that situation, we can actually do it as if we're doing it in the moment when it happens. And so as we practice, as we rehearse, we can start to really cope effectively. And it can also be helpful to do this because if we're practicing the skills in the moment, we're getting the benefits of those skills in the moment too. And so when we're practicing mindfulness in the moment, we're getting the benefits of that. And so it can help both within the present moment as well as within the future. And then the last step is to practice relaxation. And like I was saying earlier, this can come in, you can do some more self-soothing for relaxation here. It can be maybe practicing taking some deep breaths, maybe doing some paced breathing with that, maybe some progressive muscle relaxation, like what's done in the tip skill. Whatever provides you a sense of calmness and grounding is going to be really helpful here. Yes, that winding down, because there can be a lot of feelings that come up in the moment. Loneliness can be a very intense emotion, and so practicing that relaxation can be really helpful to provide a sense of calmness within the body.
Yeah, so I think, that we can wrap up our example and that way, we still have some time left for, any potential questions. Going to stop sharing this so I can kind of see the chats better. Yeah, so, were there any questions that came up for anyone?
Any ideas on how you might use these skills?
Questions could be, about either like doing the co-ed plan, maybe something for improve, or, maybe there's something where, even wanted just like another kind of idea for the co-ed plan. Anything about rehearsing it in your mind? Well, in general, we do have, about like 3-4 minutes left. So, Julie and I will, stay on for that if, there are questions, but, just so you guys know, in general, that is kind of it for our, teaching points for this evening.
Yeah, so if no one has anything else, you can feel free to end. But again, like Chrissy said, we will stick around for a couple minutes in case anyone has anything. But I hope everyone has a very skillful holiday.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm seeing some, kind of fear for, attempting to kind of go to a different family event, just, kind of due to, what happened last time. So, I think that, potentially really maybe laying out and writing out, kind of the facts of the situation for last year and, kind of really highlighting where those difficulties came in. And so, maybe seeing if it's something that, kind of like really threw you off in the moment and that you, weren't kind of having a skill set for, kind of that moment. I would say specifically for family events as well. Like I kind of like to, go through for each potential question or comment that might come up and then kind of have the skill planned out in a timeline fashion for like, okay, well, this person said this to me, what do I do right now, what is the skill I use with that specifically, and then maybe also kind of noticing what types of skills you had picked last year for your co-ed plan to maybe see that we need higher intensity skills, maybe trying to maybe even really utilize the tip skill, or even if maybe like for the eye, which is being kind of intense exercise, be kind of doing that like earlier that day beforehand to try to feel a little bit more centered walking into that event. And you have other thoughts about that, Julia?
No, but I think like even doing, like seeing that last point there, not sure if I should go to the family event again, like even doing a pros and cons on it could be really helpful. And then like if you do decide to continue to go, you can kind of tune into what Chrissy was just saying. I think that could be really helpful of really like seeing what happened last year and ways that you might be able to cope effectively with it this year.
In it. But, also I think it's absolutely okay to, maybe have to see that it's going to be more effective to, kind of maybe not go or just pop by and then, kind of leave when you're feeling, like at your limit. Because, I think obviously everyone does have different limits with their families as well as just kind of any other things that we may, face difficulties wise. So yes, I hope that was helpful. And yes, I guess, that is putting us at our time. Great. Glad that was feeling helpful. Great. Well, in general, really just excited to again have everyone here. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you got some good information going into the holidays. Yes, and again, just really thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. And good night.